Let me introduce myself. I'm David Caputo, Professor of Political Science at Pace University. And as you know, this is a continuation of our MOOC called Road to the White House. I'm also teaching this course for credit at Pace University, both in the classroom and also online. So some of these lectures also go to the online and the in-class class for them to look at. Before I begin this morning, and I have an interesting topic, I think you'll find it interesting, I'd like to introduce someone. Those of you who have been on the MOOC's website, presidential election 2016, probably wonder who's responsible for that. Well, let me introduce Zir Wang to you. Zir is a computer science undergraduate at Pace University, and she's been helping me with this. And much of the credit for the website and ultimately for attracting you here really goes to Zir. And I've asked her, we're going to be doing a MOOC in the fall on the presidential election, on the election itself, and she's agreed to stay on and help me develop that website. So look for that. Probably sometime in May or June, we'll be replacing the website. So thank you, Zir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, today I want to talk about something which you don't often hear much about, and that is, when do candidates drop out of the presidential race? We're after New Hampshire now, and we're after Iowa. So the interesting thing is, when do they drop out? And I want to show you a very interesting piece, a little chart diagram that was in the Wall Street Journal under Politics Matters. And the argument is, how long can they stay? And from a variety of sources, the author concludes the following. If you look that here, that the median exit, that means more than half the Republicans who have withdrawn from the primary contests do so within 6 days after New Hampshire. So New Hampshire really does winnow the Republican nominees. For the Democrats, it's 22 days after New Hampshire is the median. Okay? And later than that is more than 4. This is measuring from 76 to 2016. So what you see here is a very interesting analysis, and one that, in essence, what the authors of the research have done is they've gone back and looked at the polling, the percent of polling that the individual had in the last poll before the Iowa caucus, and then in the first poll after New Hampshire. And they've measured that as to whether or not they declined or whether or not they increased. And then they go out and show you when candidates drop out. So clearly, in most cases, you have to have more positive, a higher poll rating after New Hampshire than before in order to stay in the race. That's not completely true. Here we have Rudy Giuliani, who polled at a minus 15% compared with in 2008, and compared with how he had done on the Iowa caucuses. This is a poll, not the actual caucus results, and he remained in the race for 30 days. Dean stayed in the race, in the Democratic race 2004, for a little bit over 32 days. And you can see that Ted Kennedy, even though his polling was down, stayed in the race up to the convention. Okay? So this is a very interesting thing to look at. And I would just say that, again, let me come back to the major point. For Democrats, 22 days after New Hampshire, I would argue that that is not going to be relevant in this particular go-around. I think both Mrs. Clinton and Senator Sanders will be in the race 22 days from now, so they're going to be in this column. I think after everything sorts out in the next few weeks, after New Hampshire and Iowa and perhaps Nevada and South Carolina, I think you are likely to see at least one, if not 2 or 3 of the Republican candidates drop out. So this is based, however, on an analysis of what happens to polls. I want to go back for a minute and explain that I think there is another, even better way to predict how a candidate's going to do. And that is, and I will do this in the next lecture when I talk about money and how candidates fund their campaigns and so forth. But I think an interesting way to look at this would be, and you can do this on your home computer, just go to the Federal Election Commission, look up their data analysis, enter the candidate's name and the fact that they're running for president, and it'll bring a table up which will show you, today is mid-February, it will show you how much money they had raised, how much money they had spent, and how much cash they had on hand as of the end of the year, as of 12/31. 2015. Why is that important? Well, if you look, you'll find some very interesting comparisons. I'll show you this in the future, but if you look, you see that Senator Cruz has a great deal of money that he's been able to raise, over $40 million, and he still has a lot of money in the bank. What does that mean? It means that he can undergo slow progress here and still remain a candidate. Whereas if you look at someone like Governor Kasich, his coffers raised about $7 million, has perhaps $1 million left over at this point. He has to catch fire. He has to do well, or he's probably going to have to drop out. Same way with Governor Christie. Less so for George Bush, because he has deeper pockets, and we'll show you this. So my argument would be that while the Wall Street Journal analysis looking at poll results is interesting, I would say probably much more better predictor, although I haven't done the analysis, at least a good predictor of when a candidate drops out is how successful they have been in terms of raising money. So a little interesting exercise for you as we finish this is you may want to think about the different candidates and try to figure out when you think they're going to drop out. And what will be the reason they drop out? Is it because they don't do well, or is it because they're running out of money? Or do you not do well because you're running out of money, or do you run out of money because you don't do well? So which is the chicken and which is the egg? It'd be very interesting to see as this campaign goes forward. So I thought as a little diversion today, I would just talk about dropouts and exactly what it means to be a dropout this time around. Thank you.